Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're putting on our psychological armor.
Definitely needed for this one.
Yeah, because we are plunging into some source material that's relentlessly focused on, well, radical hard discipline.
Hmm.
This isn't your typical self-help stuff. This material is uh, aggressive, uncompromising. It defines personal weakness not just as a flaw, but almost like a deliberate lifestyle choice.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging perspective. It's like if these sources were a training manual, they'd just rip out all the gentle chapters.
Right.
The core idea, the thing that sets the stage right away, is this immediate dismissal of motivation, passive motivation.
How did I put it?
They basically say flat out that motivation is a fairy tale for the perpetually weak,
Wow, okay.
and that the only state that counts is discipline, which they define not as a tool you pick up, but simply a way of life.
That's a really fundamental distinction, isn't it? It shifts the whole conversation from like seeking inspiration to building infrastructure.
Exactly.
So our mission for you, the learner, is to unpack this specific, very critical claim the source makes, that the main thing holding you back isn't external stuff.
Right. Not your bank balance, not the political climate.
Not even genetics, they say, but this profound systemic self-sabotage.
Mhm.
The source insists you are actively feeding the beast of softness every single day. So we need to identify, name, and really explore the four specific weakness amplifiers they talk about, the things that make that beast grow.
And to do that, we have to get that the source sees softness not just as laziness, but almost like a deep-seated addiction, an addiction to ease.
Okay.
And these four amplifiers, they're like the common gateways, the ways we surrender control just for some temporary comfort.
Okay, let's dive in. Let's unpack this, starting with maybe the most basic physical entry point for this weakness. The one they frame as not just a physical issue, but a failure of mental integrity.
The sugar trap.
The sugar trap. That's the source's first amplifier.
Yeah, and what's really striking here is the complete lack of, nuance about diet.
How-
Well, they describe sugar and those quick fix processed snacks not just as a calorie problem, but specifically as a moral and mental compromise.
A moral compromise. That's incredibly harsh for, like, a donut.
It is. It's judgmental. But you see the distinction they're making. The source views that specific mechanism, the sugar hit, not just as a bad food choice, but as that failure of integrity because of the immediate mental fallout.
Ah, okay. So they detail the crash that follows the spike,
Right.
and they focus intensely on what that crash enables mentally.
Exactly. The source argues that the slight physiological discomfort from the sugar crash, the lethargy, the brain fog that gives you the perfect mental justification for laziness.
A little voice.
Yeah, that moment of fatigue becomes the lever for self-sabotage.
Yeah.
The voice of weakness whispers, "Oh, I'm tired now, mentally exhausted. I'll do the hard work later."
Right.
And crucially, the source points out that you use your own resources, your money, your choice, to create the very excuse that lets you fail.
Wow. That completely reframes the purpose of eating then. It's not just about energy or enjoyment anymore.
No, it's about psychological control. The material basically dictates that the purpose of eating should be for dominance, not for fleeting pleasure.
Dominance. What do they mean by dominance in this context?
They mean sustained focus, emotional stability, dominating the impulse for that immediate hit of flavor so you can dominate your mind later with clarity and steady energy.
So if the food makes you sluggish or impulsive.
Then it's a tool of weakness, not dominance. Simple as that, in their view.
Okay. So if the sugar trap is the internal compromise, let's shift to the external environment. This brings us to the second amplifier, the comfort zone cult.
Ah, yes.
This critique really hits at the heart of modern life, doesn't it? Especially in the West.
Yeah, and this one is maybe the most insidious, as they describe it, just because it's everywhere and it seems so harmless. They look at all the friction we actively remove from life. The perfectly climate-controlled house, the super quiet car, getting anything delivered instantly. They argue this constant low-level ease actively kills ambition.
But wait, why does comfort kill ambition? You often hear the opposite, that comfort lets you focus on the big stuff.
Because, according to this source, your life has trained your mind to avoid even the slightest friction. When they talk about comfort, they mean the mental conditioning that happens when your basic survival systems figure out that nothing is ever really difficult.
Okay.
So if the environment never demands resilience, if you can always just, turn up the heat or order takeout to avoid discomfort, Your mind loses the toughness needed for genuinely hard, long-term challenges.
So the smallest roadblock feels huge.
Exactly, because your baseline tolerance for friction is basically zero.
I found their prescription here really provocative. It just goes completely against so many modern wellness ideas about, gentle self-care. The solution isn't relaxation. It's introducing what they call deliberate suffering.
Absolutely. And this is where we really have to look at the extremity of it. They give specific, actionable examples.
Like the cold showers.
Right. They argue cold showers aren't for wellness or inflammation. They're a daily declaration that you are in charge of your primitive reflexes.
The instinct to flinch away from the cold.
That immediate animal urge to withdraw from discomfort. You're telling your body, no, I decide.
But is there a danger here? I mean, does the source offer any kind of caveat about pushing too far? A cold shower seems manageable for most, maybe. But what if someone takes this idea of ignoring the body's irrelevant complaints too far into actual injury or burnout?
That's a really critical question. And the source material doesn't really offer a traditional caveat like listen to your body. Instead, it seems to frame genuine injury or illness as something separate from those fleeting mental complaints that pop up with fatigue or boredom.
Okay, so how do they define deliberate suffering then?
It seems to be about low-stakes, repeatable acts of friction, like training when you're already mentally tired.
Ah, okay.
That specific action isn't about muscle growth in that moment. It's about proving that your body's temporary whining is, as they put it, irrelevant to your mind's command.
So it's mental training.
It's practice. Daily practice in cutting the emotional link between feeling uncomfortable and just giving up.
Okay, so we've got the physical entry point with sugar, the environmental one with comfort, both governing the body and immediate surroundings. Now let's turn to where, let's face it, we spend a lot of our modern life, the digital world.
Right.
How does the source define weakness there? This brings us to amplifier number 3, the consumption addiction.
Yeah, this one takes the digital landscape head on. It views screen time, endless scrolling, binge watching as an immediate, severe surrender of your mental resources.
The language gets pretty intense here too, right? Almost militaristic.
It really does. It calls out spending time scrolling or binge watching as literally renting your attention to a corporation.
Instead of investing that attention, which is finite, in your own freedom, your own growth, your own creative work.
Exactly. It paints this very stark picture of attention economics.
Yeah.
The idea is if you're constantly taking stuff in, you're sacrificing your ability to put meaningful stuff out.
And they connect that attention leak directly to status, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The choice presented is black and white. If you are not actively creating, value building, writing, solving problems, producing something, then you are consuming it.
Yeah.
And they state flat out that a consumer is always at the bottom of the food chain.
Wow. That is an intense hierarchy, almost brutal. Really forces you to rethink how you treat your own focus, your mental space.
It does. The material insists your mind should be treated like a weapon, something you sharpen, you target, you maintain, not a cheap playground for noise and distraction, just letting low-effort content wash over you. The cost isn't just wasted time. It's the erosion of your ability to actually concentrate deeply for productive stretches.
So the moment you get comfortable just being entertained passively.
You short-circuit the drive to produce actively. That's the argument.
Okay. And let's say you do manage to conquer that consumption monster. You actually produce something meaningful. The source says the final and maybe the biggest weakness amplifier is waiting right there.
Seeking validation.
Right. Amplifier number 4. This covers everything from chasing likes online to constantly posting your achievements for approval.
And they label this one the largest because while the others are more about internal self-sabotage, this one involves surrendering your autonomy.
How so? Explain that mechanism of surrender. Why is needing applause so destructive to discipline, according to this philosophy?
Because it sets up an external feedback loop. If your motivation, or worse, your sense of self-worth, depends on a like count or a comment, then you're no longer disciplined by your own internal commitment. You're basically being puppeted by the unpredictable whims of other people, of an audience. True discipline has to be self-sustaining. The need for validation means you've handed over the ultimate control, the reason why you're doing the work in the first place.
So you stop working for yourself.
And you start performing for strangers. Exactly.
That makes sense. If I'm only training hard so I can post a picture of the result, my effort depends on that digital pat on the back, which is, volatile and often pretty meaningless.
Precisely. If that post bombs or the praise dries up, boom, motivation compromised. instantly.
So what's the alternative they propose?
The source's counter-philosophy is really firm, almost monastic.
Mm-hmm.
True strength is silent. True wealth is private. True effort is done when nobody is watching.
Cut the connection entirely.
Yeah, cut the connection between doing the work and needing someone else to notice or approve.
That must be incredibly hard to achieve, though, right? Especially now when so much success seems tied to visibility.
It requires a radical shift in how you define reward. The material says the only acceptable validation is the result itself, the measurable, tangible outcome.
Success is its own reward.
Literally. Meaning the gains in the bank account, the physical changes you see in the mirror, and this critical piece, the self-respect you earn by following through on what you said you'd do, especially when no one was there to cheer you on or hold you accountable.
So that internal knowledge.
That internal knowledge that you did it, that's the only currency of discipline that can't be devalued by anyone else's opinion.
Okay, let's try and synthesize this whole intense philosophy. We've covered these 4 areas of what they call incremental sabotage. The sugar trap, messing with your mind.
Right. The comfort zone called killing resilience.
The consumption addiction draining your focus.
And seeking validation, giving away your autonomy.
Yeah. These aren't just isolated bad habits in this view, are they?
No, they're defined as deliberate choices. Choices that actively amplify weakness and stop you, the learner, from becoming truly formidable.
The underlying message seems to be that these are all just different forms of avoidance.
Exactly. Avoiding physical discomfort, avoiding mental friction, avoiding the hard work of creating something, or avoiding relying only on yourself.
And connecting all those dots leads us straight to that overarching command from the source, which is an immediate actionable task.
Audit your life for comfort.
Right. It's like an exercise in ruthlessly finding every single piece of padding, every place where you're settling or making concessions.
The material basically insists that comfort is the breeding ground for all weakness. Period.
So if you eliminate comfort, if you deliberately introduce friction and enforce self-reliance,
then those 4 amplifiers just lose their grip. They don't have the opportunity to take hold anymore.
the final choice presented in this material couldn't be clearer, really. It frames life as one of 2 paths.
The weak amplify weakness. The strong amplify control. That's it. There's no middle ground offered in this philosophy.
It's a really forceful closing argument. It demands immediate action. The ultimate call here is just direct, identify and eliminate those weak points.
And stop being soft. Start being formidable.
Yeah, it's less like a gentle path to self-improvement and more like a philosophical declaration of war against the easy life.
So what we've really learned today is that this source defines discipline as something intrinsic, non-negotiable. It's a state of being. It demands radical self-honesty about where we let momentary comfort and outside approval act as these systemic saboteurs.
And the path to being formidable in this view.
It lies in embracing friction and making sure that your effort is tied to privacy and self-respect, not public performance.
That's a heavy analysis, a lot to take in about reclaiming control. So if true effort, as the material suggests, is really done when nobody is watching, here's the final thought for you to mull over. What is one area of your life, maybe a specific goal, a habit, a skill you're working on that you could transition right now from being a visible, performance-driven effort to a private, silent achievement?
Interesting.
Yeah, focus on the self-respect earned when you follow through, not the applause. That's definitely a deep dive for the ages.